This is a short introduction video to XMPro, and it highlights how XMPro enables intelligent business operations in large and medium organizations. It is based on a typical example that demonstrates the three key elements of intelligent business operations which processes need to handle. The first of that being able to handle unstructured routing, which are rules-based rather than workflow-based. So that is the instance where there are no predefined workflows, typically a scenario of knowledge workers where based on contextual information you would decide what the routing is, which leads to the next point of intelligent business operations, the ability to handle dynamic changes to the process based on internal and external contextual information. And then lastly, being able to manage and handle social collaboration in and around processes. With structured workflow, you typically have a challenge where social collaboration happens with email outside of the process management solution, and with XMPro we have built social collaboration into the process, and that is how we enable intelligent business operations through XMPro. This is the web interface of XMPro. It is also available in SharePoint, Microsoft Outlook, and also for mobile devices. As you can see, we have multiple login providers, social providers, so you can log in with a Facebook account, Twitter, LinkedIn, some line of business applications like SAP. If you're on Active Directory, it will log you in through your Active Directory credentials, but in this instance I'm going to use a XMPro username and password based login. So I'm going to log in as Keith Miller, and Keith needs to start the bid management process within our organization. So there's a new bid control process. This is for a large-scale tender, and before we can do that we actually need to put together a bid committee. There's certain business rules that will dictate how the bid will be put together, and one of the dynamic aspects of a bid is as we gather more information, some of the rules and governance and compliance requirements may change. So in this instance, just as from a reference point of view, this is the XMPro user interface. These are things that I can start. These are my to-do list, task cases, schedules, tracking. I can track either processes that are in progress or completed, and we have analytics and dashboards as well showing the performance of each of the processes. If you want more information on XMPro, contact us or one of our partners. I'm going to show you the bid request process. This is a typical form that is designed inside XMPro, and it's got dynamic capabilities. So based on information in here, this may change. It may add or remove certain buttons. So from a dynamic and unstructured point of view, we are able to manage unstructured processes. If you look at this is the web interface. So if you look at the design environment, the design environment is a desktop application that can be used to author on-premise and XM Cloud, so our hosted cloud environment, XM Cloud, to configure processes on any of those. So in this instance, I'm going to look at that same process. I'm going to look at the market and sell, and I'm going to look at opportunity management. As you will see from our representation here, this model is there's no flows drawn between any of this. This is just a container. The container is opportunity management, of which bid management is the start of the process, the new bid control process, and from there it can flow to any one of these. There are no predefined flows, so we can have a collection of events, and I can add new events to that in this design environment without having to build complex routing logic. We have dynamic allocation logic, which will automatically assist you to route functionality in order to do quite a number of things. I'm going to start an opportunity for a new company called Osco. We would like to tender on that, and in this instance what you'll see is at the moment it doesn't force me to go to a bid committee. If I put in a value of $10,000, you'll see that there's still I still have the option to manually do that. The business rules say that if it's a new customer, there's a certain segment, it's a new technology, and it's above a certain value, then it will force me to go to a bid committee. If I change that value to $50,000 in this example, then it'll automatically force me to go to a bid committee. It doesn't say that I have to do it right now, but one of the governance and compliance checks for this process will be, before I can complete the process, that it will be needed to, or it will need to be submitted to a bid committee. Date, so we'd like to submit that then, and the information that we're going to update back to our CRM is that we think that they are going to buy around about that time. Opportunity assessment, I can attach documents. These documents could be stored in either SharePoint or your document management system, or in a file-based solution. And in this instance, I'm just going to the standard XMPro file-based solutions. In this instance, I'm just going to upload the assessment that we have done for OSCO. So it's one of the documents. I can have additional supporting documents, and I can add additional line items, as you can see. So we can have header information, line information, multiple lines you can add and remove. I'm not going to add any right there. I can have questions that need to be completed in order for this to happen. So as you can see, I've uploaded a document, and in this instance I'm going to send it. I have contextual information. I've heard something around OSCO on the news, and I just want to have a credit check before we're going to spend all this money on the setting up a bid committee and all that. So as a knowledge worker, I am not forced to go in a specific route. I'm just going to ask for a credit check at that point in time. And as you'll see, it's now gone to the finance group. So there's 3 or 4 or 5 people in this finance group that can act on this. So I'm going to log in as one of the people in the finance group, and once again I'm just going to use the XMPro login, and I know that Mark Smith works in that group, so he's one of 5 people in a finance group. So it's under market and sell products and services. If it's a large list of outstanding tasks, it's quite easy to filter and sort in large numbers. I can have a look at what was done. So before I accept this task for myself, I can have a look at the history, and I can see what was completed in step 1. And based on that, I will assign it to myself. So now it removes it off the rest of the people in that group, and it now only sits with me. So as you can see from a dynamic point of view, at the moment this is not reviewed, so there's only one option on the screen. And from a control and governance point of view, we can still make sure that at certain points only certain steps can happen. In this instance, the $50,000 is actually US dollars, and we want to convert from US dollars to Australian dollars. And we will use an external web service in this instance, so it will convert the 50,000 to using that currency exchange rate from a web service, and that is equal to $47,000, which we need to submit to our credit guys for credit approval. Before we do that, so as you can see, it's not reviewed yet. I'm going to send it to a credit service, and they will come back with a score. Once again, that's the external web service, and that brings back a score of 79. Data integration can be done through to any line of business application that has got integration capabilities, to external web services, to SharePoint lists. So from an integration point of view, we have a whole lot. As you can see, it's now also changed this to a positive review. So now that the credit check has been done, there's a positive review for this. So I can submit this, and it'll now go back to set up a bid committee. This is the next step that's recommended after the credit check has been done. And I will log in as one of the people in the bid committee. So I know that Tim is one of the bid committee members, and in his list of tasks to do, we have the bid, and it's come through from Mark. So once again, if he wants to see the history of that before I do that, I would actually just like to have a conversation around this. So I'm just going to say any info on Oz, and the company was called OSCO. info on OSCO. So this is a social conversation that I'm starting. I can do it with a specific user that is part of this bid committee group, or I can just send out, does anyone know of them? And so this is a message that is associated with this process. Now, having a look at this, I will assign it to myself, so I can once again see the history. I can see how it got to me. So if I look at the history, I can see, you can see there's the conversation that I've just entered into the process. I can see how from a history perspective how it got to me, and I can say assign that. So now this activity sits with me. And as you can see, this opens up a whole new screen with a whole lot of features that supports intelligent business operations. We have covered how we handle unstructured and dynamic routing options in here. From a intelligent business operations point of view, you want to enable knowledge workers to make the best decision and take the next best action that they can. One of the challenges that you find with conventional systems is that you still have to go off to a third-party application and look at your BI tools to understand where you are. With this intelligent business operations features of XMPro, you can actually embed the graphs right into your BI information, right into the step that I need to do, the step that I need to take in here. As you can see, this is a assessment of the opportunity. The current opportunity is that green one over there. So in terms of risk, it's a fairly low risk project and the probability pretty high, and that's the value. So this can dynamically change as risk information gets entered into another system. This can move the bubble around, so you can see where this project sits relative to other projects. So as soon as I looking at who I need to assign, this can have an impact on resource scheduling, which we'll cover over there. But there's still some more information that I would like to have before I make a decision, and one of those are looking at process goals. So in this example, I can see that my current sales budget, I can see I'm way under in terms of sales budget, and this is the funnel coming out of the external CRM solution. It can be on-premise or cloud-based information. This can be external web feeds. It can be a Google or Bing map with superimposed points in terms of where vehicles might be, where aircraft tracking, or whatever it is that you want in terms of process goals. Now, process goals span over a process where this is inside a transaction. So this is specific to this step in the transaction, and this will span across. So every single person who is part of this will drive to the same outcomes or the same process goals. So you can set certain process goal parameters in here. So those are two of the components. The last component that we'd like to do is actually to have to look at what is the next best action.
So let's have a quick look at this next best action. In this example, we are actually just looking at the number of times a certain process we followed. So on the right hand side, we've got legal review, finance, and recast, and we also look at, based on these these exact same conditions, what did people do with in that specific scenario. So 17 people sent it for recasting. So you can build what if scenarios. You can build a lot more complex next best actions. You can build your business GPS and advise people what the next best action is. So the combination of the next best action, the process goals, and the in-flight analytics gives you an unbelievable opportunity to advise people on their actions. You can do resource scheduling out of XMPro. There's a whole number of ways to build lists. This is, for example, people in the existing system. And once again, this is a typical example of a intelligent form that you can build with information from external services. And as you can see, the green bubble in this bubble chart, part of the dynamic component of what XMPro does. This is really just a short introduction in terms of what it can do. There's a whole lot of other functionality, and I really suggest that you talk to either ourselves or one of our partners to see some of the other functionality inside XMPro. Thank you for your time.